So Elon Musk tweeted that AI is already better than most doctors. That's the honest truth, and it will become far better. Same for all jobs, to be honest, including mine. Well, a new study just proved AI makes doctors 20% worse at diagnosing cancer. So much for honest truth. Look, I get that Elon thinks he's an expert on everything. Cars, rockets, social media platforms he accidentally bought. But medical expertise? Yes, he cut funding for prevention of Ebola research. AI is better than doctors. Okay, Elon. And I'm sure your next tweet will explain how AI is also better than rocket scientists, which should make your day job interesting. Actually, I'll give him this. AI is better than Elon at Elon's job. Because a world without his leadership, that's an upgrade. But let's move past Twitter hot takes and look at what actual science tells us about AI in medicine. The Lancet, that's a real medical journal, not a social media platform, just published a study on AI and gastroenterology. It found that when doctors used AI to diagnose intestinal tumors, their accuracy dropped by 20% when they later worked without it. 20%. That's not margin of error. That's a systematic degradation in the ability to spot cancer. That is like, oops, we missed your cancer. Doctors in this study were not newbies, who just came out of med school. The study was conducted among experienced Polish gastroenterologists, and the Lancet study connects perfectly with research from MIT, showing that when people use AI for cognitive tasks, their brain activity decreases. They literally think less when AI is doing the work. This is intellectual muscle atrophy. The more AI does the push-ups, the flabbier our brains get. When doctors rely on AI for diagnosis, their own diagnostic skills atrophy. The MIT study explains the mechanism. When AI does cognitive work for you, your brain goes into power save mode. It's like intellectual muscle atrophy, but for people responsible for keeping you alive. Gastroenterologists who depend on AI image analysis are losing the ability to spot obvious tumor characteristics with their own eyes. Cardiologists using AI for EKG interpretation are forgetting how to read basic heart rhythms manually. It's not that they're getting stupid, it's that they're not exercising the cognitive muscles that medical diagnosis requires. And the Lancet study proves this has measurable, dangerous consequences. When your diagnostic accuracy drops 20% because you outsourced your thinking to a computer, that's not progress. That's professional deterioration. You want to see what actual medical expertise looks like? Look at doctors working in crisis conditions like Gaza, natural disasters, war zones. These doctors don't have AI assistants. They diagnose by examination, by experience, by using their trained medical judgment. And they're saving lives under impossible conditions. It's a fascinating paradox. The doctors with the least technology are maintaining the highest level of diagnostic competence, while doctors with the most advanced AI support are showing measurable skill degradation. But this isn't just about individual doctors getting rusty. This represents a systematic threat to medical competence across entire specialties. Think about what happens when an entire generation of gastroenterologists trains with AI assistants and experiences that 20% decline in tumor detection. Those doctors become the professors training the next generation. Each generation potentially gets worse at independent diagnosis because they're not developing those cognitive muscles. It's a cascade of competence loss. The MIT research shows why this is inevitable. Brains adapt to their cognitive environment. If that environment does the thinking for them, they stop developing the neural pathways that medical diagnosis requires. But it gets worse. The AI systems that are already making doctors 20% worse at finding cancer, they also have systematic biases. AI diagnostic tools are typically trained on data that underrepresents women, minorities, and older patients. So not only are they making doctors worse at diagnosis generally, they're making them systematically worse at diagnosing entire population groups. And when these biased systems make wrong recommendations, who's held accountable? The doctors whose independent judgment we've systematically undermined through AI dependence. So we've created a system where doctors are less capable of independent diagnosis and more likely to be wrong about patients who don't fit narrow demographic profiles. Here's what should really concern healthcare leaders. We're making medical competence dependent on technology infrastructure that routinely fails. Hospitals lose power. Internet connections fail. AI hallucinates. Servers get hacked. And when that happens, doctors whose skills have degraded through AI dependence are left with significantly reduced diagnostic capability. The doctors saving lives in Gaza right now don't need Wi-Fi to spot internal bleeding. They don't need software updates to recognize heart failure. They don't need cloud connectivity to diagnose infections. But we're systematically creating doctors who do need all those things, and research proves their diagnostic accuracy suffers as a result. Here's the beautiful irony nobody talks about. Hospitals are spending millions on AI systems that research proves make their doctors worse at the most important part of their job: accurate diagnosis. Think about this business model. Pay enormous amounts of money for technology that demonstrably reduces your core competency. It's like a restaurant buying equipment that makes the food taste worse and calling it innovation. Meanwhile, the doctors performing best under pressure, those in Gaza, disaster zones, remote areas, are using the cheapest diagnostic tools available: their brains, their hands, their experience. This isn't about being anti-technology. This is about recognizing that some technologies, despite good intentions, make people worse at critical skills. And in medicine, that means people die. When we make medical expertise dependent on systems that demonstrably reduce diagnostic accuracy, we're not improving healthcare, we're systematically undermining it. The question isn't whether AI will replace doctors. The question is whether we'll accidentally destroy medical competence while trying to enhance it. Here's what you need to do. If you're getting medical care, ask your doctor a simple question: can you make this diagnosis without consulting a computer? If they hesitate, well, maybe find another doctor, preferably one who still uses their brain. Share this video with anyone in healthcare, because this conversation isn't happening in boardrooms or medical conferences, and it should be. The research exists. The evidence is clear. The only question is whether we'll pay attention before it's too late. And Elon, if you're watching, stick to rockets. At least when one of those blows up, it doesn't take the healthcare system with it.